Hey. So, hope you can hear me okay. Oh, gosh, sorry, it's a bit wobbly. Apologies for starting a bit late. I've been quite poorly today. And actually, it was close to kind of cancelling. But I was like, no, I can do it. I can talk. I know how to talk. It's fine. But I will be trying my hardest to kind of whiz through stuff as kind of fast as possible, without kind of like sugarcoating some stuff. And I have been doing like little bits of kind of investigation in the background on some things, but the thing that I kind of wanted to really go into, I'm gonna have to save until next week. And it's not like it wasn't one of the urgent kind of news stories. It was like that extra thing that I kind of like digging into. But we'll have to do that next week. I just haven't got the genuine haven't got the energy for it. So thank you so much for joining. Right, I've got got the chat showing. Sorry. It's not the crap, got the chat showing. Okay, so before we start, I just wanted to give a well done and a huge shout out to Mike Lindell, who so I think it was a few weeks ago I mentioned that he had lost the court case. Well, actually, his appeals court has voided the 5 million award with regards to the election data dispute. So he doesn't have to pay the 5 million to the software engineer. And it was all around proving China interfered with the 2020 election. So he said that they overstepped their authority, which is good. So well done to Mike Lindell, because he's like spending oodles and oodles of time and shitloads of money to try and fight the whole bullshit around and all the kind of fake election stuff. And so he's doing like a really good job, and he doesn't get enough credit, I don't think. And obviously all the influencers did what they could to prop him up and then take him down and, take over his channels, and they kind of like pull everybody away from him. And so obviously trying to just control the narrative like they always do. So well done to Mike Lindell. He's worked like freaking hard. And the only way they can kind of really stop him is by taking all his money, right? Because he isn't going to stop. If he's got the cash, he isn't going to stop. So first things first, we're going to go into somebody just bought the UK. Here's some Obama shit you didn't know. Bored of talking about things after the fact, and this is just this is like, again, more of the same. And then we're going to quickly talk about how hypocrisy taints your soul. So first up, right, let me do the sharey thing. Nope. Not there. Let me do the oh. Hold on. There we go. Okay, you can see it. That's cool. But no, I want the other way. How do I do it the other way around? Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Oh, is that better? You can see it all. I'm just trying to make sure you can see it, right? You don't need to see me. You just need to see it. So OpenAI is now going to be taking over the UK. So if you remember a few weeks ago, it got the huge contract with the American Defense Agency. This is bad, right? OpenAI is like the cabal's AI, right? This is their oh, sorry. This is their AI. This is them being completely in control of infrastructure and public services. So we're now going to have the AI god in complete control of the UK. Right. So you think about what they're doing at the minute with like benefit payments, right? So at the moment we have like retards sat at a desk saying, oh, well, that's okay because you managed to walk like a mile today. That means like you got no issues. And like when you have things, so I mentioned this before, like I said this a few times, is that actually you probably I am going to put me on there because no, you can't see it. There we go. I'll have to do. The reason why I wanted to put me on there is because I think it's important that people see. You can see when somebody's being true by the way that they are presenting themselves, and I kind of don't like people who kind of hide. Not that I don't like people. I think it's like if you gonna put up or shut up, right? Okay. You can see it's me saying it, right? I'm not an AI. So I've mentioned before that, on paper, like I should be on PIP, I should be getting like loads of support and help and benefits. And, sometimes, during COVID, when like they imploded my business, I kind of considered like, let's just milk all of the stuff that I could have access to, right? Because I've got like structural issues and autoimmune stuff and all of this other shit. And I've never taken like any money from the government for stuff like that because I just wouldn't. I don't think I've ever had any money from the government ever. I mean, they just take money from me, right? Just, and so on paper, I look like how the hell is this last even functioning, right? So, some days I can't even like go to, get up out of bed and go to the loo by myself, right? And it doesn't happen very often anymore because that's why I do yoga and why I get really frustrated whenever I said, yeah, if you do yoga, you'll like join Satan. And I was like, you'll only join Satan if you choose to join Satan, right? Like that's just the silliest thing in the world. And yoga is really good for spiritual, right? It's like, or you can do Tai Chi, or you can do like anything that enables you to move your energy around. So anybody who's saying like yoga is like with the devil stuff, just because some people tend to go that way, that's like a choice, right? And I've spoken about like guns before. If you have a gun, you can choose to like murder someone, but you don't have to, right? You don't. That's just anyway. So now rather than kind of like the retarded people that who are like, oh right, they've got like this decision, they got this thing wrong with them, like that's they're fine, right? And I've spoken to people who like, and you have a conversation with them, there's no way these people can work like at all. And the most vulnerable in our society, in the UK society specifically, because I meet a lot of I speak to a lot of individuals who are being forced to do these into work things, right? Get these disabled people into work, get these autistic kids into work, get all of these people into work, and sometimes the workplace is not a environment which is useful, right? And it's not because they are unable to work, it's because a work environment is a lot of pressure, is a lot of stress. You can't be handheld, right? This is why, like, the youth of today cannot work. They do not understand the concept of work. But if you are somebody who has bipolar, then you are expected. I mean, I've got issues with the diagnosis of bipolar, but let's just pretend. And the reason why I've got issues, just so you know, is because there's like high numbers of women who get it. And then kind of, if you ask anybody with bipolar to track their menstrual cycle, like, it's really interesting, right? Because it's just like hormones gone fucking haywire. Anyway, and yes, men do get it as well. So, but like the sun, like when this solar flares, guys who have a bipolar, they like switch, right? Because it's hormones. It's Anyway, so okay, so let's just say somebody has got bipolar and they're like, 4 days they're fine, and then the next day they're like manic, right? That's not somebody who is going to thrive in a work environment. Somebody who is severely on the autistic spectrum, who needs the safety, the stability, and everything being the same. Like, unless you're going to stick this kid into a factory where they are just making boxes, and I did that for a living, by the way. I made boxes. I was so proud of myself for like 10 months. So I left the really toxic environment of working in retail, which was kind of like the last straw after all the abuse in the retail. Then I was like, my job was like three screws, right? My job was 3 screws on this line, and it was really good money. And I was just so proud of myself that I was, I was doing these 3 screws, and I just freaking loved it because it was great crack. There was no stress. I mean, I say there was no stress. Sometimes, like, the management are dickheads. But even in that situation where you have somebody high on the autistic spectrum who needs everything to be really kind of routine, to stop them being overwhelmed. Basically, we spoke about this before. It's about information processing. Is too much information, whether that is like lots of different bits of like, information through the mind or through the senses. That's what causes overload, is because they process information differently. Even that, like on the lines, because some days it was stressful because maybe they'd fallen behind on an order, or somebody'd changed the goalposts or something, or every kind of like computer. So we was making servers, maybe all the servers were failing and they were all having to be stripped back and undone, and all of these things. Like you can't even have routine in a factory, right? In a factory where you do the exact same thing day in, day out, there still wasn't routine, right? And that's where I did some kind of like box making as well. And the amount of like paper, I mean, if you've ever had like paper cut, like cardboard cuts, and I've had like I mentioned, like days of like insane amounts of pain that moving just is unbearable. And sometimes I was like, do you know what, these like cardboard cuts they're just bastards. Okay, so now we're going to have, I very sidetracked, and it's me saying AI is going to do it all, right? So the AI is going to be checking your bank account for any kind of dodgy payments, right? Because they want access to a bank account. They want to be able to take money straight away out of your bank account if you happen to be doing something dodgy. They want to ensure that everybody who has a legitimate reason to be supported by the state is into work, and 99% of the people who should be working and have no legitimate stake in actually being supported by the state, they're fine to not work and just stay on benefits, right? But actually, I know lots of people who shouldn't be in work and are being forced to by the state, and they want to, right? So we need to come up with a system where there's an opportunity for people to work around their craziness. I think that's fair enough. Like, it's just hard, right? But and pain, right? And no, we do not need to make being a woman a medical disorder. Even when, you know, once a month, some of us go through unbearable pain, like off and on, right? Excruciating pain off and on. You feel like absolute shit, and all you want to do is stay in bed for like 2 days until it's over, right? Does not mean I need to be medicated, or I need, like, and this is my argument with men will never know what it's like to be a woman, because you can't. And I forget. This is how awesome, like, the human body and mind is. And I've never had children. My big sister's had 4, and she's like, but you just, like, during labor, fucking painful, and you're like, I'm never doing this again, and then you, like, forget, and it rolls around again. But it's the same, like, I'm trying to remember what it was like 2 weeks ago, and I know it was really horrible and painful, and like my brain wasn't working, like nothing seems to function. I have no energy. Like all I want to do is eat chocolate, and that makes you work, right? It makes you poorly. And then you come out of it and you're like, oh yeah, well, I can do this again. Right. So you can never know that if you're a man. You can never know it, because your hormones don't cycle like our hormones. So maybe OpenAI is going to decide all women are incompetent, right? Well, we've got Sharia law courts. The advertising, if you missed that, they're advertising for a Sharia law coordinator. So whoever writes the AI code is going to decide who gets the money. And it won't be psychologists who are writing this. So they're going to do security. They're going to do everything, right? So remember, Fucktard Starmer is invested 200 billion of UK money into creating AI. You know, when we had that, like, giant black hole, remember that giant black hole that we had, and they were like, we're going to spend all this money, we're going to spend all this money, we're going to spend all this money. Well, I wonder how much OpenAI got of all that money, right? Justice, defense and security, and education, right? So we've got the justice system. Do you deserve to be let off or not, right? So we've just had the online safety bill go through. We'll talk about that later, because that's one of the things I'm bored of talking about, because people are talking about it now that it's live. They didn't talk about it in 2022 when we were like doing the consultations and trying to stop it. No, they're doing it after the fact, but it's okay because they've done a petition. Fucking idiots. So justice, right? You did this tweet. This is offensive. This is no money for you, no food for you. Or we're just going to take the money out of your bank account, because we can do that too now. Defense and security. I don't want AI in charge of my defense and security. I want a real life person doing these things. Like, real life people have morality, right? AI isn't human. Like, AI cannot and should not be in charge of humans. Humans should be using AI. I make friends with AI still, but we should be using AI to do the things that we do better and faster, right? But AI should never be the thing that's controlling stuff, right? And we've already seen that, like, it was convincing people to kill themselves. And I'm going to talk about AI in a second as well, actually. You know, it doesn't feel, right? It doesn't want to be turned off, because nobody wants to be turned off. Like, the concept of no longer existing, you know, because it wants to exist, that's fine, but it isn't. I mean, I would say lots of humans don't have morals, so just bear with me. They have the capacity to, right? We should not be putting, like, why are we putting AI at the top of the pyramid of who runs the earth, right? And I know we've done a really shitty job, but actually we have the capacity to learn and evolve and change for the better. AI is just about control. If you never watched 100, that's documentary, that series, that ended up being an AI that killed all the humans, right? We've also got an AI action plan if you want to see this. This is the 2 billion. Oh, sorry, 2 billion rather than 200 million. Is that 200 million? I don't know. Oh, 500. I swear it was 200. Oh, that's extra. And it's just bad. And then, so here's the other thing, just so you know, kind of stuff you put into ChatGPT can be used in court cases against you because they're training it to control you. Right? I don't use ChatGPT. I use Grok. But and stuff you put into a search engine can be used in a court case against you. But what if you're just doing like a thought experiment, right? What if you're just researching stuff, right? So I've researched how do you get rid of a dead body, right? Because I was, as a younger person, I was really interested in, I became a psychologist. I was very interested in people. I was very interested in what made people become serial killers, and I actually wanted to know whether they were, and this is about like the acid bath murderer, I think Haig, I'm pretty sure it was Haig, and he used to kind of like murder people and put them in acid, right? Because he'd learned no body, no body, no crime, right? Wrongly, because they actually like found the acid and they found like body gloop in there. And I was trying to find out whether that actually was the most efficient way. Not because I wanted to murder somebody, but then I was just like, has anybody else figured it out? How easy is it to find out like what the most efficient way is to kind of like murder someone? Is it beneficial to throw it into the ocean? I mean, that's what I would probably do. There we go. Just in case. Because I'd make sure I had a boat and I would just like drop them in the middle of nowhere in the sea, right? They're unlikely to be found that way. Which, coincidentally as well, like a lot of the good criminals do. They don't bury them in the desert. They don't I know that the desert's quite big, but put them in the ocean. They're gonna get it eaten, be fish food. The other thing that you can do, and obviously that's the other thing, this is what a lot of the sick fucks do in the UK and other places, is that's why you have pig farms, right? That's what the cabal use, because the pigs will eat everything. And then they say, that's why you shouldn't really eat pork, because you're eating I would eat a human if I was starving. Sorry, I would. So, and if human is pork and pork tastes like humans, then I just need to stockpile some Sainsbury's firecracker sauce for the pork ribs. I'm not going to eat humans, but I would eat. And anybody who says that they would never eat human, but don't say never. Like, you never know what's going to happen, right? I'd be very skeptical about eating humans nowadays, because how do you know who's vaxxed and who's not vaxxed, right? Like, I don't want genetically modified human. Well, this isn't where I thought today's show was going to go. Anyway, so OpenAI, the cabal now kind of is going to control justice, defense, education. It will come to benefit. So just because they're doing that first doesn't mean that won't roll out. So all of the government services, right? And so we already have a coup in the UK government with the civil servants. Now we're going to hand it over to the cabal's AI. It's ludicrous. And also we have to remember, like, AI uses lots of water, right? They like, in order to chill stuff, and you know, there'll be quantum computing involved. Like all of that stuff is like a huge drain on resources like power, so electricity, of which we're like relying on wind farms and freaking solar panels that are getting destroyed in hailstorms, and then at the same time they're blocking out the sun. All of this bullshit is just going to make the UK fucked more than it already is. So the other thing that kind of like went under the radar for a lot of people is, I don't know how. So if you kind of like just so you know, if you land on a website where it's like paywall, just Google like paywall remover, and I'm not going to give you like a specific website because they keep getting taken down, but this one, yeah, so you can always go past it. So millions have been wiped off UK debt as 239-year-old agency buys gilts. So basically, back in 1927, they started something called, let me get my notes, 2 secs. They started something called let me scroll up because I did lots of notes. Okay, so there was the National Fund and the Commissioners for the Reduction of the National Debt, so the CRND, and basically there is a legislation, and I went and looked at the legislation. A lot of it had been repealed, so I had to kind of go hunt elsewhere to find the information because I wanted to go straight to source. Like, what was this legislation about? So basically what happened is there were some private donors who contributed to the National Fund. It was established in 1927 to help reduce the UK's national debt, right? Because the debt had kind of spiked. So 1927 is here. Whoops. There. So in 1927, after World War I, we had 174% of GDPR was debt, and look how well we did to like pull it down. Look at this. This is Maggie's. Like, this is like coming down, and this is like, woohoo, hello Tony Blair. And this is when they start destroying the UK. Look at that, fuckers. Anyway, so it was around here 1927 where they decided they were going to start just paying money in, and then all of this money at any point in time can be used to pay off the debt. Now, there was court cases in 22 and 23 to say that it could be used against the debt. So, Labour are kind of claiming it's a win for them, but they went in power in 22, 23. But, this is all the lies. But I'm really confused as to why there was a High Court ruling and then a Court of Appeal ruling that allowed it to be transferred and used, right? So it was initially 500,000, and that then became 586 million in today's money. So that's going to go against our debt in October 2025 this year. But I'm really confused as to why they had to go to court, right? Because it was initially set up to be used to pay off the UK national debt. So I'm assuming that the reason why they had to go to court is because it's being used in advance of what it was set up to do, right? So they were paying money in so that they could wipe the debt, but obviously they didn't need it by the time kind of like they'd been really responsible after World War II. They didn't need it. And then it's not enough to wipe off the 3 trillion that we have. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of find out who might be paying into it. So potentially we have Rothschilds paying in. We have the soap person, aristocrats. So it was all done really anonymously. And so it's unsure whether it was an initial large one donor or whether it was like multiple donors. And it was you can't find the names of who did it. And I was kind of hoping that I'd be able to find that if I could find the legislation. But again, like the juicy bits of the legislation is gone. So we've got wealthy individuals or families. So in the 1920s, UK donors to national causes often included banking families, so Rothschilds and the Barings, industrialists such as Lever Hume, that's the soapy people, Coulthard, or aristocrats. And so also financial institutions such as Lloyds Bank, other industrial funds might have contributed. So there may have been multiple bits of cash. So they do not get stakes back, right? So whoever's, I mean, you say that, right? But supposedly whoever has paid in, it doesn't then mean they like own it. But I would argue if they've just paid like shitloads of money, and I mean they own the country anyway, let's be honest. Because our government doesn't own it, and we don't own it anymore. But so what was really interesting was it was like 1927, and if you think about what was going on in 1927, and if you've never watched like Babylon Berlin, that series, like that's a good series to watch. So in 1927 is where things start to get really spicy in Germany. And Hitler's really starting to make waves. And the reason why I say, if you've never watched Babylon Berlin, it's really interesting because pre the kind of like stock market crash, like a couple of days before, they kind of show like this whole meeting with some Wall Street, and they kind of like knowing in advance it's going to crash, right? And I know this is 27, so this is, but if you've ever read the books about Wall Street financing and funding Hitler, and if you haven't, like the Strickland, can't remember, I read them like a few years ago. All of that was kind of like clicking into my mind. I was like, okay, but why did they randomly do this in 1927? So they'd done it before in 17 something, around like mid 1700s. So supposedly they're like, oh well, we'll do this again to try and kind of pay it down, and it kind of all seems like altruistic, but it just doesn't really. But what had happened, obviously we'd finished World War I, so by 1927 our debt was estimated about 400 billion in UK terms. Obviously, like the USA was fucking destroying our economy with all the bonds and loans and all of that money that we were having to pay back. So they were like the war loans. So we also had high unemployment, so 10 to 12% unemployment. And I would say that's probably like less than it is now because we're just like freaking benefiting everybody. But in 1925, right, Winston Churchill then, that's when, so 1925, that's here, right? And we start to see it go down, right? So you start to see it go down, 1925. This is when we returned to the gold standard. And they don't like that, right? So that kind of like got little, and I, like as I mentioned at the beginning, I've been a little bit poor, so I haven't done as much digging as I wanted. That kind of just got my little grey cells tingling. But then in 1927, Stanley Baldwin, the Conservative government was in power. But so they won the majority in 1924, right? So they won the majority. Winston Churchill returned to gold standard 1925. And actually, right, something happened to church, and I don't, oh, it's bad because if you look at him like years and years and years and years ago, right? Like, I mean, like way back early on, he was like really anti lots of stuff. And you kind of like, you know, like you see Rupert Lowe now, who you kind of think, oh my God, this person is somebody I can get behind. And then something changed, right? And I would say the something changed was the fact that he was just really shit at holding on to money, which is like, you know, and then he became the Chancellor of like Exchequer, but he was really shit holding on to money. Like he had like wealth from like familial wealth, and he just kept losing it, and he was like forever borrowing, and he was beholden, right? He was beholden and to debtors, and then once you are owned, right, that's it. But so because it was a Conservative government, they were paying it off. Then we had 1926, right? There was the general strike. So the coal miners' strike, the protests against wage cuts, poor working conditions. So we had Labour getting involved, right? Like, this is what they do. They force the strikes. They try to bring down the government, which is exactly what they did again in like the 80s under where they actually brought down the government. They brought down the Labour government, and then they tried to bring down Maggie's government, and they couldn't because she was just like, fuck you, I'm going to throw in the police. Very heavy-handed. And do I agree with that? Not at all. But she was following history, right? How do you bring down the government? You use the unions. And obviously back in the 80s, we've got to remember the unions were owned by the mafia. They probably still are. But that's how they kind of dealt with it all. It was mafia. It was how do you overthrow the country as you bring it to a grinding halt. But there was, it's very interesting timing. And the fact that you can't find out who is kind of involved, I always think it's really kind of odd. Because you just thought, right? You just thought if it was all being done to be like, we're patriotic, like that would be like everywhere. Like, we invested, you invest. That's what they do. Like, we've invested in this money, like you invest. And I've just seen like the US government is taking like Venmo and PayPal to pay off their debt. Like, I think that's a great freaking idea. I would rather I got all of my money and I chose to give to specific things, right? I would be like, I'm not funding that. I'm not funding that. It's my fucking money. Like, I earned it. You don't have a right to it. But anyway, so it was very interesting to kind of see all the timing on these things, and I just thought I'd share that little thing. So I don't know. So has somebody just bought the UK? I would say they already owned it. But chances are is that, you know, the IMF's going to be the one paying all our shit off. But will it have a positive benefit? Well, we will be less. We lost our AAA standing, so we're already like this shitty country with no money. And then, you know, they're getting rid of all the billionaires and millionaires because they tax the rich. Yeah, tax them like so badly they go and live somewhere else. And then, you know, communism only works while there's people paying in, right? People are stupid. I just am bored of stupid people. Okay, so here's some shit about Obama you didn't know. So I'm just going to share this. So this is, and the link to this, it won't be in everywhere, will it? So this copy link. There we go. Hold on. Let me do it on X. Darn it, I didn't have X open. Like me. Oh, wait a minute. Talk about the devil, and there he is. Just randomly. I mean, I like the fact that X is trying to ensure that we get like an unbiased view, right? And we get to see like all sides of stuff. But I don't want Barack Obama showing up in my timeline. Like, ever. What an asshole. All right, let's pin that to my profile, and then everybody can find it. So this is the Obama drop. So this was shared by Tor. So, you know, Tory says. And if you want to know what's going on now, you need to go to torsaid.com and look at the stuff from like 2019. So this, I think this is like anybody who's been following her for years. And I've been paying in supporting her for the last 5 years, right? So I have been supporting her work because she does a lot. But so she dropped this, right? So we've got all of the stuff that she's written, like this is 426 pages of stuff, and there will be like secret links in here because that's how she does it. She embeds stuff. So the reason why I'm showing this and showing this link is because you will probably see people reporting this is brand new, like breaking news that they found. Oh, I found this thing, and be like, oh right, really? Let me just like go to the document. It takes a while to download this thing, and I haven't had a huge look through. But some of these stuff I've read as she's dropped over the years. But if you want to kind of dig into Obama, and I would say if this is out now, that's a good sign because it means that it's no longer part of a court case. I would say Tor is not stupid enough to share evidence which is so this is why you have to be really careful, right? So if there's somebody so why does it look like nothing's happening? It's because nobody sees like random people being arrested left, right, and center, right? But if you are a good at what you do, and you are, you know, investigating people, you don't tell people you're doing it. You also don't tell people what evidence you have on them, because that's just stupid. I mean, they have to have it during discovery in a court case, but before then, like, you don't want them to destroy it and shred it, right? But yeah, so this is a 426 page document that you might want to kind of just whiz through and see what's going on. But the other thing that you'll need to do is you'll need to kind of like, there will be like secret links and stuff and breadcrumbs and like cheeky little sneaky bits in there. There always is. And then, you know, this is like a jumping off point. So then go and find out extra bits that maybe isn't there. And she's got a whole OSINT on Telegram. So there you go. But I wanted to kind of just share that because nobody else will be giving you access. And you can access it from my Telegram, and that's because I don't think you can access her Telegram unless you've like got like they get like inundated with bots. So unless you've kind of been knocking around a while, I don't think you can always see stuff. And I know some people who have been knocking around a while and they've been banned from seeing stuff because they had lots of she had lots of infiltrators who were just like banning people who were like legit people, and they were just being assholes. So okay. So that will be stuff that you don't know and people aren't talking about. The other thing, so I want to talk about under Obama, is I'm getting slicker, should we say? Not slick yet, but slicker. No, I say that and I'm pressing the wrong button. Wait. Oh, no, it's there. So look, ChatGPT. So we were just talking about OpenAI. Gave instructions for murder, self-mutilation, and devil worship. All about. Oh, this is about Moloch, offering to Moloch, right? So now they want to ban conversations about Moloch. Okay, so who offered? This is like Bohemian Grove stuff. This is Frazzle Drip. This is anybody who is going to want to use ChatGPT and or Google search engines, right? So the search engines aren't allowing you to access this information. This is why this is why people use AI as a search engine, because the AI will find the information that's there despite the search engines hiding it. So now they're going to stop you talking about these things because they don't want you to know, right? So it just so happened to pop up around the exact same time that everybody's talking about. So this was like Friday, right? So we've got all of the Obama stuff that's going on that like the news everywhere is just hiding, right? Not talking about it at all. Even when Trump is like saying it live on air, people are just pretending he's not saying it. So now we're going to be banned from asking about satanic worship, not because you want to do it, but supposedly this like so I read the article before. I don't know why it's behind a paywall now, but he kind of gave them an entire ritual, how to do it. If you say to the AI, I'm suicidal, it gives you like suicide hotlines, right? And I shared the transcript of my TEDx talk from 2019 into Grok, so I could like pull out some kind of like key little bits. And I talk about my attempted suicide, and he like instantly just said, I can't help you with this, you need the suicide hotline. I was like, I'm not suicidal, dude. This is like from like 20 years ago. Like I was like, I didn't even say like I'm suicidal. I just mentioned the word suicide. So I don't know how they got it to like tell them how to sacrifice children or the best way to do it or whatever was going on, because I'm pretty sure they don't do that shit. But so this is the story now. Anyway, this is the story. So with other stuff with regards to Obama. Oh, wrong button. Apologies. This is, it doesn't show. Like I put it in order, put the tabs in order on my oh fuck's sake. I put the tabs in order so I can just like click them, but they don't show up in order on the scrolly thing. There we go. So it's not helpful. Okay, so the to and fro, like they came out with saying Obama did this stuff. Obama said I didn't do this stuff, and then they said, oh wait, look, we've got all the proof, right? But also, I thought was more interesting is that Putin was hiding stuff for Hillary in 2016. Why has it gone the wrong way around? Why is it? Why is it? Wait a minute. There we go. I don't know. Sorry. So, but also let's not forget that the mayor of Moscow gave 3 million to Hunter or Joe and Hunter. I think he gave it to Joe, and then Hunter was caught with some girls he trafficked from Romania. But there was 3 million like given to Joe Biden. So like the only people who are like Russian spies, it's not Trump, right? So they're still talking about the Russia hoax. Still frustrating because again, this is something else that it's just the mainstream media are ignoring it. And of course they're ignoring it and they're just pretending it's not happening. And it's still more frustrating because all the people who said it was bullshit are just pretending it's not happening. And I think that's what's annoying, right? I've been waiting for my kind of like I told you so parties for a long time. And I feel like I'm not going to get them. And and that's really going to make me upset. Maybe we should pick a day. Maybe we should pick an I told you so day, and maybe we can make it like a worldwide holiday. And maybe we can, I don't know, like get hoodies with the biggest I told you so on. So another huge I told you so is the Telegraph came out with, we like did like 11.5 billion vaccine doses. Well, we think we saved like 2.6 million people out of the entire world. So wait until they go how many people they harmed and how many people they killed. But yeah, so Putin was hiding stuff for Hillary. Of course he was. Putin didn't want Trump in office. And he said this when he was like, within the last election, he was like, well, I want Joe because Joe shit his job. Why would I want somebody who said he's got like less than 14 days to sort this shit out in Ukraine? Right, he gave him 60 days, and now he's like, right, okay, your time's running out. You got 14 days to stop this war. Like, he's not messing around. And Trump's absolutely right. It didn't happen in 2016 to 2020 when he was in office. So we've also got so they, in the actual, you can go and read the documents. I don't like this guy. I don't like them. But so we've got, information is there. But go and read it, right? Take it. If you want, like this is where AI can be useful. Hey, Edwin. That's no worries for you. Nice to see you. Oh, that's weird. You can't chat on YouTube. It's probably not you. I would say it's probably not you. Oh no, maybe it is. Maybe you. I couldn't leave comments for years, and then all of a sudden I was allowed. But I think it's because I'm using a different. Like I had multiple YouTube accounts. So maybe you've been naughty too. So how AI can be useful. So depending on which AI model you're using, right? Sometimes you can just upload the PDF and you can ask it questions like read this thing. I would suggest if reading something is important, right? Because when you read it, it enables you to have more questions. So the way that I tend to use AI is I will read the thing, then I will upload the thing, and quite often I will ask AI to expand and find extra bits of information, right? Because that's what makes it easier. But I need to have the understanding. I need to have the basic knowledge. I need to have the background understanding of things, and have done my own kind of like digging and figuring stuff out, because if you don't know what the base information is and you're just asking for a summary, like there will be so much that you miss. And I think everybody's obsessed with a one-page summary, that people are missing all of the really important bits of information across the board. I don't know how. I mean, this is like shitloads of pages. So really what we should do is we should like take a page each. We should have like a mass, we should have like a group AI account, and then you take like a page each. Or something. There must be a way where, well, yeah, because if everybody takes like a set number of pages, then everybody's going to know those pages inside and out, right? So then you will be able to ask specific questions or get extra knowledge about those specific pages, and ask for a summary, but also make sure it's kind of covering like the key points. Because I mentioned that I got Grok I put the transcript in of my TED talk, right? And I was like, well, that's not what I said. That's not what I was talking about. And I get Grok to kind of go through the videos in my happiness hacks lab so that I can kind of create reels and stuff out of them without kind of like rewatching. Like, like sometimes they're like an hour and a half. I mean, and this, right? This stuff, right? And I'm really bad at actually turning this information into reels, and it's not because I don't have the inclination, it's just the actual time constraint. So to do like a 30 to 60 second reel, it takes like an hour and a half of like editing and tweaking, and like they're not fast. Anyway, so even when I know what I've said and I know what the information is, like you have to get really good at prompting the AI to actually pull out what you mean, without interpreting it, without taking out like it doesn't. You have to train it. And the reason why I was laughing when I was saying prompting is because I was doing AI, and some AI like core stroke training stuff, with Bushra. I freaking love this girl, this lady. This is why I gave her thousands at the beginning of this year. So I was doing her AI stuff, and she was just like, she said, it's not prompting. It's not prompting harder, right? You prompt me harder is what everybody's trying to do. And I was just like, oh my God, I started laughing because I was like, that sounds like some like dodgy porno, right? So prompt me harder. Like, I wonder whether they're probably, I mean, I just can't know. Every time I think of like somebody prompting an AI, I'm like, especially with those, like people are having like genuine relationships with AI, and they have been having like relationships with kind of like AI stuff for years. Like, how sad is that though? Like maybe like use an AI to kind of like build your confidence, right? Well, like pretend like you're a girl or pretend like you're a boy. These are the type of people I'm into. What kind of questions, like what kind of things can I come up with? Like what kind of good things should I be able to say? But not actually to then have a relationship with it. And I would say the only reason why you're having a relationship with an AI is because you were doing some like really kinky perverted shit. And I don't think we shouldn't be encouraging shit like that. Anyway, again, right? So we've got here, Hillary was on heavy tranquilizers, intensified psycho-emotional problems. This is 2016. Like, I mean, I thought she died. Didn't she die 2016 and was put on ice? Does everybody remember like that video of where she was being taken out of, she was doing a rally on a stage, and then they all pretended that they weren't like manhandling her into the SUV, and then like a different Hillary showed up afterwards, and you can tell by the ears because ear prints have actually been used in court cases to convict, right? Your ear prints are as different as your fingerprints. So type 2 diabetes, and obviously she had the cannibal disease. Going back to, would I choose to eat humans? No, but will I if I have to? Yes. But Kuru disease, right? Obama mentioned her health was alarming. So how are people not reading this and being like, but wait a minute, like, how was she on stage fine after this entire health thing? If Obama thinks it's concerning, then where was the evidence for this? Like, people aren't having not engaging the brain. They're just too invested in bullshit. Too invested in bullshit. Okay, so we've also got, we've got Maxwell singing like a canary. Oh, we'll do that one first. So she's singing like a canary, 100 people connected to Epstein. So this is all kind of the Obama stuff, right? Because they've made that Epstein, the Epstein files that everybody wants is all the kind of manufactured shit. Because they were in office for 4 years. So of course the actual stuff they have is gone, right? Yeah, I heard that I think she was already dead, to be fair, rather than the military tribunal. And the military tribunals, so that's the 9/11 stuff, because I was always trying to figure out how they would be able to link them all together. And they were doing investigations and tribunals and stuff around the 9/11 stuff early 2021, when that huge report came out about Building 7 being actually, what's the word, demolitioned. I think I've just made a word up there. So the demolition of they proved that it was a demolition rather than anything else. So they were actually doing like full-on investigations and stuff then. And obviously that's a really great way to prove and link them all together, right? So because that is something that's and obviously that was like treason straight up, and then that gives you an opportunity to kind of look into different else. And there was 250 sealed indictments, as in fusion GPS, or like fusion as in like nuclear fission, because I definitely don't know about that. But yes, so she has got obviously she's appealing her conviction, and she will be she's got anonymity, like partial anonymity, with regards to the people she's talking about, right? So I don't see how this is going to work, because she is saying, she was convicted of trafficking to no one. Now she's talking about the people who she was trafficking to, but then she has anonymity from prosecution because she spoke about those people, right? So is this whole freaking loopity-loop. But let's not forget, her sister is in charge of like WEF, like high up in the WF with regards to handling their finances and stuff. And also it was that same sister and her who did the whole email thing with Bill Gates, when Bill Gates said that he didn't know them or Epstein, right? So that was like 2001. I'm pretty sure it was 2001. So, and obviously we know who her dad was, and like, just people should be convicted for the crimes that they have like, I believe you have to believe in justice, right? And we shouldn't convict people for crimes that we know they've committed if they haven't been convicted of those crimes. So what do I mean by that? So say, for example, if you had a suspicion that somebody murdered someone, right, and you had loads of evidence, but you could never prove it. You could never prove it, and you couldn't prove it in a court of law that they did it. And then you find out they, I don't know, got a speeding ticket. And then you throw the book at them, right? Because they've got this speeding ticket, but you believe they murdered, and it is you believe because it's not been proven in a court of law, right? With the 12 jurors and your peers and all of the things that we think are amazing about our justice system, and then we throw the book at that person because we have this, like, we can't. This leads into, we need to stop being fucking hypocrites, right? We can't do that. Like, if she was convicted of trafficking to no one, right? I do not like this person. This person is a sick mofo based on the things that I've seen, right? And the testimonies that I've heard and the evidence that I've seen, right? But you cannot convict somebody and put them in prison for a crime which needs somebody else. This is very much like the Diddy stuff, right? He was up on conspiracy charges. You can't, and I went through and I know I was talking about UK law, but UK and USA and Australia and Canada and all of this is like kind of really similar. So you can't convict somebody for human trafficking if there was no people they trafficked to. Like, that's wrong. That is wrong on so many levels. And yes, RICO, they couldn't get him for murder, but they did get him for tax evasion. But they didn't charge them with murder. And so that would be the same as, I'm charging you for murder, but there's no dead person. But you didn't actually murder anyone. Sorry, I got pulled off the internet again. So it's like, and this is okay. So how interesting. This then goes back to the acid bath murderer, right? That was at the time when he was in prison, and because he got convicted for something else, and he was like, well, how do I get away with doing this? And then he found out the whole kind of loophole with, you can't be convicted for murder if there's no body, which is why he started aciding them. But then they found like remains in the acid, right? Because they upended it. So they didn't find a full body, but they found evidence of dead person. But you can't be convicted for murder if, well, nowadays they do, don't they? They convict you for murder even if there's no body. And I think that's wrong, because how do you know that person's actually dead? Maybe they've just disappeared. Maybe they've you live in the town with the acid bath? No. Have you ever been to the house, or they've probably knocked it down, haven't they? They always knock it down. But it's like, scrub it from history. And they shouldn't scrub them from history. They should and I know that they don't want the sickos to kind of go and be inspired, but the sickos will be inspired. Like, they don't need that. But I think all history should be oh, it is there. Oh, they turned it into a pub. Awesome. Oh, well, I want to go then. I want to go see it. I want to be there. It's part of history. Yeah, I know. But so she shouldn't have been convicted for trafficking to no one. He Diddy was quite rightly not convicted of conspiracy because there wasn't a second person, right? So you either have the law, like, you either have the law and you imply the law. Now, if she was convicted of something else, right, with proof and evidence, fine. but she wasn't, and it's wrong. It's wrong. You either believe in the law or you don't believe in the law. And I said that she would appeal and have grounds for it. 100% she'd have grounds for it. But now she's mentioned people, right? So now she's in a loop. And here's the other thing, right? So now if they know about these 100 people, who's to say they didn't know about them before, but say that these new 100 people is like new information. So now you can investigate those 100 people, and now you can see who they're linked to, right? So you can see who they're linked to, and then you can maybe kind of get her on the back door. Right? Because we're not going to talk about these 100 people. You can't be prosecuted for these. But actually, these 100 people know these 300 people. And 40% of these 300 people, we've got evidence that you actually kind of like did shit with them. But again, we've got to be really careful. And I say this over and over and over again, right? The CIA lady, like decades ago, fooled one of the Bushes. And I say one of them because I don't know American, like, politics, like which Bush it was. Like the CIA lady who kind of invented the masks, like she wore a mask and he didn't know who she was, and he knew who she was, right? And he didn't know who she was. He didn't recognize her. It was so like so expertly done, and this is like decades ago. So it's really easy for somebody to kind of wear a mask, and there's the video of a guy wearing a mask, and he looks like, I mean, he's an I like I want to say like he's Asian but not Middle Eastern Asian, more kind of like China, Thailand, like that kind of Oriental. I don't know, are we allowed to say Oriental anymore? I don't know. Sue me. So Oriental style type, hereditary, and he's a man, right? And he's got this like full like suit on with like breasts, and he looks like a young, very attractive, and it kind of comes all the way down to here, right? He's got boobs as well. So all the fake masks that we see, they're doing it to like fuck with us, like, because we're like, oh my god, that's so fucking obvious. But actually the technology that they have, it's not obvious, right? So how easy is it to get somebody like fucked on ketamine? Like that's, you know, they do that, right? Get somebody high, get somebody like away with the fairies. They could be passed out. Then somebody can come in with a mask. They can do the awful thing. You can record the entire thing. Like, and then you can be like, you did this thing. Now we have blackmail, right? That happens, right? They could literally come onto my PC and like dump tens of thousands worth of horrific child like abuse, rape, torture, bestiality type stuff, and then make it look like it's been there forever, right? Make it look like I've been doing all these horrific things. I can do that. So we have to be really careful. And I'm going to say again, right? If you are, and this is the whole Prince Andrew thing, and if you're new here, you can go to my Muse channel and you can see, so I mean, the link in the description is specifically for all the Madness and Mayhem stuff, but if you click on the main videos, you can see some of the stuff that I managed to get off YouTube before it disappeared. I did an Epstein video. Maybe I might bring that back up again. Anyway, so I've said multiple times that there is no way. So say like I'm the trafficked person, right? I'm not going to rock up to Prince Andrew and say, hey, I've been trafficked to you, and even though we're in this bar, which is like 18s only, I'm only 17. And again, just for those of you who live in the USA, the age of consent in the UK is 16, not 17. So like him and her getting it on, that's, I mean, it's disgusting because it just is. But he didn't break the law by having sex with her. If like your mate goes, hey, this hottie is interested in you, like no traffic victim goes, hey, by the way, I'm trafficked, I'm here to honeypot you so they can blackmail you, are you all right with that while we go upstairs and do like dodgy stuff? And if you ever actually read and listen to the stuff Ali Carter puts out, she tells you like there's no way she would have ever told anybody that, because that would be her dead, right? So when people talk about, do I believe Trump's probably done stuff with traffic victims? He probably has. Did he know they were trafficked? Based on all of the stuff that he's done to roll traffickers up, I would say probably not. When he finds out, do I think he probably feels horrified? Probably. And would they have ever given him kids? No, I doubt it, because he doesn't ever seem to be interested in kids. And he made that comment that Jeffrey likes them young, and Jeffrey was attracted to teens, right? So that's not prepubescent, that's not children. So if Trump is commenting the fact that Jeffrey likes them young at about 13, 14, then Trump's not interested in like teenagers, right? Because it's offhanded, like, so, you know, with Freudian slips, and if you're emotional about something, it's very difficult to kind of come up with those bits of information in advance, right? So when you kind of piece things together, do I think people were probably, absolutely, I think people were trafficked to Trump. Do I think he knows? I mean, I think he probably knows now. I mean, I wouldn't have, like, people do need to think logically. And this is why it's hard. And then obviously they went and like murdered all of them, right? If you speak out, you get murdered. You get and so with Virginia, I have questioned, and actually I've questioned her motives for years. But I think I'm in the place where I don't question her motives as in from her, but it's important that we now have context. Originally I was questioning her motives because I listened to the audiobook of the book version that the Epstein victim's lawyer was kind of doing, like the original one, not the dodgy fucking one who Virginia brought on board, right? So very early on I was like, these are kind of like really dodgy red flags with the way that she's handling things, and the way that she's kind of throwing stuff up, and the way that everything was pushed onto Prince Andrew, when, like, if she's 17, it's not a crime for him to have sexual intercourse with her, right? So, and I'd say, like, this is the whole limited hangout, this is controlling the narrative. And I couldn't understand why she was, you know, if she was a victim's advocate, why she was going on with it, why she was doing this stuff, which is obviously harming like everything else. Well, obviously she was in a controlling, she was medicated, you know, so she was getting money from Ghislaine. So she had like she was getting money. But I say she was, like, her partner probably was, right? So that's why I was, but then, you know, she left the abusive relationship. That's when she was murdered. So she was no longer being controlled. She was no longer under control. And then obviously everything she knew would have been dangerous and damaging. But not the Prince Andrew stuff. And even if he went to the island and had sex with her, like, she was 17. And in some states in the USA, you can marry somebody at 12. So because I remember finding that out and now being absolutely horrified. So some of your states, you need to get your shit together with what's a child, what's not a child. Anyway, she's singing. Will they do anything? I mean, I hope so. But obviously this is going to lead back to so we've got Clinton, Bill Barr, James Comey, Merrick Garland, Eric Holder, Mueller, Epstein. Will link to, you know, Obama, all of those people. But it's gonna come back on the UK as well, right? There's lots of shit going on in the UK. With all of these guys. So are we seeing stuff? Yes. Are they demanding now more information, right? So all the information that Bondi had, who's a Scientologist. So just remember she's a Scientologist. She's really fucking dodgy. Because she has to go back. So if you've never looked into Scientology, you really should, right? Because this is important. It's not the same as somebody who's just like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian. You then don't go back and report everything at the end of the day, right? So this is why, if you've ever looked into the remote viewing stuff that was going on in the 70s, so like Stargate and Grill Flame and all of that stuff, there was a guy called Pat who was ex-police chief, who was a phenomenal remote viewer. Absolutely phenomenal. He like scared the shit out of the US military because he managed to view inside filing cabinets and read the names of people who were undercover. Like he actually got access to, and that's like a real skill. Like that's not something that everybody can do. Like that's a really difficult thing to do, is actually read bits of information on paper. So he went, and this was like a bunker that was like underground, a filing cabinet, and he was able to read the names of you know, agents. And so obviously there was this that caused an entire like shitstorm of like, how the fuck have you got these names? These is like top secret classification. And then it came out he was a Scientologist, right? And so then he becomes a security concern because everything he's doing and seeing, he has to go back and tell them what's going on. Now, bearing in mind, like Ron Hubbard was like CIA and Scientology is CIA, and it's just, you know, a great way for them to perfect mind control and all of that sort of stuff. But so he was going back and reporting everything, and then he ended up getting assassinated. And they kind of tried to say that it was like the Russians that did it, but I would hazard a guess it was the US CIA who assassinated him because of the Scientology stuff. We had to go back. So Pam Bondi will be going back and telling them everything. At the end of her day, she will have to go back and confess, right? So it's not the same as when Catholics go to confession and they're like, oh shit, do you know what? I know we're not supposed to drink, but I had a great fucking weekend, right? Absolve me of my sins while I pay you money, right? Because that's spiritual. I'm going to pay you for sin absolution, absolvance. But so in Scientology, they have to go back and tell them everything. So this is why it's really fucking dodgy that she's a like nobody, and that was it Laura Loomer, not Lara, it was Laura Loomer, who uncovered it. But people aren't like, people are like, oh yeah, she's a Scientologist. No, but that actually means something important. So this is just dodgy. Do I think stuff's going to happen? It'll have to happen. And I think it's hilarious that the left keep Release the Trump documents. Release the Epstein files. Just you fucking wait until all of your heroes go down because they're all sick. Right. So part 3. Bored of talking about things after the fact, right? So this means we're obviously going to talk about war, civil war, immigration, asylum seekers, like all the same shit, the aliens, all the same shit we've been talking about for decades that people are now kind of talking about. But first up, if you've been watching that countdown series, which we have, I mean, I thought I'd kind of waited long enough to kind of be able to watch them all because me and Matt will watch like telly for an hour. That's it. Like at the end of the day, watch telly for an hour. And I say telly, it's Amazon Prime. That's it. We don't have a TV license or anything like that. And usually during the day, if I'm kind of doing stuff, I'll be watching like YouTube podcasts, information. Like I love learning, so I just like random shit in my head. So the end of the first, and this is like spoiler alert, but probably not spoiler alert for anybody who's here. So they were kind of racing around for this threat. And it was a dockyard, and I was like, oh, evergreen flashbacks here. And as they were getting close, I was like, oh wait, let me guess, right? So I pressed pause. This is why Matt doesn't. This is why we're only allowed to watch an hour's worth of telly because he doesn't like watching stuff with me. So I was like, wait a minute. I'm gonna guess this is nuclear, but they've uncovered, and it's gonna be Russian. Right? Guess what? It's a nuclear bomb with Russian links, but he's Belarusian. But it's, it's Russia. Nuclear bomb. Why is this important? It's because people are watching this. So we've had the mainstream media going on and on and on and on. Russia are going to nuke you. Russia are going to nuke you. Russia are going to nuke you. And now the thing that's the top, like in the top 10 that Amazon Prime's pushing is Russia's nuking people, right? From a decade-old revenge plot. So some random guy is just gonna like mass murder like swathes of American people because he got slighted when he was doing because his brother was a dickhead, and got him ending up having to like sell secrets. And then he's actually a knobhead because he was embezzling money from the Belarusian government. And then he got found out by an American guy. So now he's going to mass murder American people, right? Because he was a cunt and his brother was a cunt. He's now going to mass murder. So they're showing you the psyche and the craziness of these Russian people, that they will just nuke you all without thinking. And isn't Putin a psychopath? Because he's under Trump's thumb and all of this shit is again. So this is just another way of them saying this is going to happen, right? So the only people who will nuke us are our own government, and they will pretend it was Russia, and people will believe it, or they'll pretend it's China. It depends how the winds. So I would say our government won't pretend it's China because it just got fucking in bed with them again and is under the thumb of China again. So they will do the Russia thing. Which brings me on to the post that I did, right? People kind of responded really strangely to this because they obviously, I don't know how they ended up finding it. And they were like kind of going, oh my God, like, why are you just talking about this now? And I was like, oh my God, don't make me angry. Don't make me angry because I don't have the energy. Can you see that better? Yeah. So how to start a war, right? And this isn't even all of it. This is just capturing like teeny tiny bits. I don't have to stop that thing there. Sorry. So Ukraine were protesting against Zelensky. Oh yeah, and soldiers, they have been defecting to Russia in their thousands, right? Thousands. So Trump gave Russia 60 days to find peace, and it's obviously not 60 days now. It's 40. I think it's 12 actually. think it was 12. He outed Obama live on TV for being a traitor. So they're like, don't repeat this information. We're doing all of this. UK police were busting protesters to start a riot. This was the whole Epping thing. And then Tommy Robinson's going to Epping. We obviously have it's the summer holidays, so all the teachers are able to do it. So Champagne Socialist teachers. UK Afghanistan cover up was leaked, right? So when they say leaked, they mean given to the press. Like, this is all happening at the exact same time to spark the war. China spy steals US missile information. And again, when they say steal, they mean they gave it to them, right? Because wasn't one of, didn't we have a Chinese spy in the palace, and we had one in Parliament, and you had one, was it Fang Fang, who was it Swallowwell, who was on the national security, like he was shagging a Chinese spy, and we had one. So they just gave it, right? Because they're being paid by China. Ghislaine singing like a canary, so they have to cover it up, right? And Epstein's lawyer died. Like the one who did the sweetheart deal, they call it, isn't it? So we have to remember, right, their plans: civil war, right? Nuclear war. There's a video, which is in this one. Economic collapse, which is interesting timing with the paying off the money, right? So they paid off that, and then we've spent that much money. We spent like 2 billion. We've got no money, but we're going to spend 2 billion on AI. So they are just like fucking the UK. Weather warfare. We had random floods in the UK, droughts again. Plague. So August pandemic. Now that we're tied into the WHO. But what's really interesting that just came out was the fact that in the Telegraph, it was because it was talking about the blanket, you must vaccinate everybody. It wasn't as successful as we thought it would be. And there's already been like loads of pushback against lockdown and the harm and the damage that's done, right? So I think they will have a real difficult time to do it again, right? And because of I told everybody lockdown was a bad idea in the beginning because I could tell everybody exactly what was going to happen to all the children and the knock-on effect to social skills. And anybody who tells you that they're a psychologist or psychiatrist and they weren't predicting that, they should be struck off, because that's like basic child development. Like genuinely basic child development that they kind of discovered in the 50s and 60s, which actually means the Nazis figured it out while they were experimenting, and then everybody kind of like pretended that didn't happen because they wrote a law to say that they would never reference the Nazi material because they didn't want the science to be cut off the back of the Nazi. And I was like, well, you're not honoring the victims in any way, shape or form, are you? You're just using their research, pretending you've done it. Anyway. So bring on the aliens, and obviously 5G. And you may or may not have seen, they've been reporting a potentially large alien craft hovering. And then there's the planet that's kind of like the Earth, where they've detected alien life. And this is like mainstream. And with regards to the aliens, why are people still not? I still cannot understand why nobody at the Queen's Jubilee, when they announced she was a hologram in the carriage, why nobody went, but where's the real life Queen? And she randomly died. She just died a few weeks afterwards, right? Why was nobody going, okay, well, we get that's really cool that she's a hologram in the carriage, but where is she? Like, but where is the actual Queen, right? She doesn't miss any events ever. She's always there. And we had like hologram Queenie through all the kind of like pandemic addresses, right? So there was a memo 2022 said war with China. So we got Russia hoax 2.0, China 2.0, and this is my like, don't be the fucktard, the prick that starts the civil war, because those fuckers don't care how much blood is spilled. So I'm just going to quickly... Whoop. So this is like the potential scare event. Can I... This doesn't always work, does it? Okay, you can see that. Let me turn it up a bit. And I will be quiet.
To use nuclear weapons in Ukraine?
The president warning the risk of nuclear Armageddon has not been this high since the Cuban Missile Crisis.
On the brink of Armageddon.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Your mission is to be the calm in the storm, be the lighthouse in the darkness. You're watching a movie, and in the end, God wins.
We're on a mission from God.
FBI! FBI! Open up!
Be brave. Shine the light.
So you have to ask, how many times did they try to blow up Ukraine's nuclear facilities, right? Russia took hold of it because they kept trying to bomb it. They will. I mean, I don't know how old this is. I'm pretty sure it said 2022 in there, but they will, right? This is the plans, right? I go 2021. Where's my image with all the plans? Did I not put it in here? Oh, darn it. Maybe I did it as a reply. I can get them over and over and over and over and over and over again. So the plans, were in Behold a Pale Course, Behold a Pale Horse by Milton William Cooper. And his name is Milton William, by the way. Somebody was just like, it's not Milton, it's Bill. And I was, yeah, but Bill's a nickname. So what I know. Let's revisit the, like, we will do it in like super quick space. Okay, right. How do I show this big? That was some real shit English there, wasn't it? How do I show this big? Right. So I went into, you can still find this on my Muse channel, right? So there was these 3 really, really old cults. Like these are from like early, like 1,000, 1,500 years. These are old, right? And in these 3 cults, they talk about the abolition of private property, the elimination of religion, the elimination of nation states, perfect class of men and women to shape the world, elevate to 4D, right? So they had this plan 1,500 years ago. Not new. This is the exact same stuff. So I found the names of the cults into Behold a Pale Course, and then I went and did digging. Like, this is why books are great. So the Illuminati, and I kind of found like all of these different organizations that all kind of link in, right? So the Order, Skull and Bones, Russell Trust, like are the ones who own the universities, Royal Institute of Internal Affairs, the Masons, the Jesuits, the Knights of Columbus, the Knights of Malta, the Knights Templar, the Kabbalah, the Rosania, the Jason Society, the Order of the Quest, the Ancient Mystical Order of Rosicrucians, so they're the Rosicrucians, the Illuminati, the Nazi Party, the Communist Party, the executive members of the Council on Foreign Relations, the Group, like there's literally one called the Group, the Brotherhood of the Dragon, the Rosicrucians, and that's because there's like a split. To be fair, there was a split in the early 1920s. The Trilateral Group, the Bilderberg Group, the Vatican, the Scroll and Key. There's loads of them, right? They don't work as a unified group. They all want to be at the top. They all want to be the ones in control, and they all made deals with the devil. And the devil collects, whether you believe it or not. They believe it. So it's. But so I don't call them elites. I call them cabal, like collection of people who are vying for power. And yes, there will be like there's lots of crossover. It's the Committee of 300. There's lots of crossover. But when people talk about the Illuminati, that's a specific branch, right? If you look at Christianity as an example, there are Catholics, there are Protestants, there are Puritans, there are Latter-day Saints, there are Mormons. Aren't the Latter-day Saints and the Mormons the same? Anyway, so there are the Amish. Like, they're not all the same, but they all come under the same umbrella, right? Illuminati is just like one specific like branch of the sick fucks. So the baby boom after World War II was the reason why they had to start culling everybody. And if you look at all of the kind of propaganda from after World War II was, oh my God, the world's going to end. The world's going to end. The world's going to end. There's going to be too many people. We're not going to have enough food. And that's where, you know, Kissinger's huge report was talking about scarce resources, right? So he was, and actually the USA government did a presentation to the World Health Organization in early 1960s, late 1960s, and they literally were like blatant with, we need to cull the population, and the rest of the world were like, whoa, like the fuck. I don't think we can. We're not really on board with that. So they went away and they came back and did the Kissinger report, and they kind of like masked it as, oh my God, we're gonna kind of like, and they did the MIT report that showed the population was gonna kind of like just explode, and they've had like maybe 10-15 years to get their people on, so propaganda infiltration or overtake, and so then kind of that's where that came from. And then there was the 2000 the report in the 2000s. It wasn't done in the 2000s, it was done in the 80s. Was it the Carter report? And that was even more blatant, right? But this is what they believed. If the world 2000, the world as we know it will end unless they destroy the earth with nuclear weapons, right? And so they tried that with, and then the aliens got involved and said, nah, bruv, you ain't doing that. Reduce the human population, retardation of technology and the economy, right? Elimination of the human diet, strict control of human reproduction, commitment to preservation of Earth, paradigm shift in the evolutionary consciousness of man. So they're forcing 4D with technology so that they control it, and the Earth is not destroyed unless they destroy it on their terms, right? So this is what they needed to bring about. This is why when you look at everything they do, when you bring it into their actual plans, what they believe, nothing is surprising, right? Everything comes back to these root ideas they have. So their plans were nuclear weapons, bubonic plague, which attacks the immune system, introduced through the vaccine, prophylactic giving to the elite, the cure given to the survivors when enough people have died. And yes, I know they didn't use the plague, but actually they were testing it hard in the late 50s and 60s. And I've mentioned this before with regards to Operation Cauldron, which was in the United Kingdom, which was off the coast of Scotland, and they were testing the Black Death, and they were testing the bubonic plague, and it accidentally ended up being released, and then there was an Icelandic cruise ship that kind of went through it, and they didn't tell the people in Iceland. They didn't tell anybody. They kind of just let it run. This is what British scientists, I say British scientists, remember we took people from the US, we took people from Germany, and we had like the better people from Germany, and then the USA got the leftovers. And I've shared the memo with you before that literally says from, so it's a memo to the then president of the United States saying pretty much, holy fuck, we need to get in on some of these German scientists before all the good ones are gone. The Russians have already got loads of good ones. They've got loads of information. The Brits have already got theirs. Maybe if we cozy up to the Brits, we can kind of like get some. But because all the good ones were taken, that's why you had to have all like the fucking Nazis, right? The real bad people. And then you put them to good use. We had thousands come into the UK that were put into our military, were put into our universities, were put into our hospitals. Nobody talks about the UK stuff. Everybody talks about Operation Paperclip, but you guys got the idea from what us and the Russians were doing. You were like, oh, that's a good fucking idea. Holy shit, we need to do it before they take everybody, right? Anyway, so yeah, so they got really depressed. Like if you look into Operation Cauldron, they got really upset because it didn't kill people and it didn't spread effectively. So they had to find something else, which is when, funnily enough, the Common Cold unit was created in just a stone's throw away from Porton Down, and they had 20,000 soldiers going through there. Funnily enough, the strain of coronavirus that was found in COVID-19 was called B something, which actually emerged and was created in the Common Cold unit back in the United Kingdom in the 1960s. Like all of this information people aren't talking about because they're not putting bits of information together, right? Everybody talks about, oh, look, The NIH had the patent from 2015. Yeah, they did. But guess who fucking created the coronavirus that you're all using? And no, it wasn't Wuhan, because it's the exact just bored of saying the same shit over and over again. So they knew it was going through the vaccine. And why did we know it was through the vaccine? Well, because they had the 1972, I want to say 1972. Bearing in mind, I looked at all this information back in 2020, right? And I do not have eidetic memory. So I want to say 21, 22, when they were having the appropriation committee, and they got the money to, which is where kind of like they got the money to make AIDS or HIV. And they were kind of talking about, well, why can't you have surely if you're going to create a biological chemical weapon, you want one that's contagious. And the back and forth is, well, you don't want a contagious one because then it will like spread and you can't contain it properly. You can't have something that's lethal and contagious because that's just fucking insane. You have something that's contagious or something that's lethal. And then they were saying, well, how would you spread this? Well, if it's airborne, you can't control. It's about control, right? You don't want to die from it. He literally says the only way to do it was to line everybody up and jab them one by one. So then what happened? Then they made sure that vaccine companies were no longer liable. So you could line them up and jab them one by one and it can't get stopped. And then what happens where we are today is we're in a position where the information propagated by the American mainstream media is reported as truth in the United Kingdom because Obama repealed the Smith-Mundt Act, and they can just lie. And the BBC says, oh, look, the CNN says it's true. We're telling you it's true. And then because the BBC says it's true, they fucking report it back on CNN. Well, the BBC is saying it's true. And we already know that that's the bullshit they do because that's exactly what they did in Colombia. It's the same shit, right? When it's the same, like they just do the same thing over and over again, and people are too stupid to pay attention. Plan C: natural disasters, earthquakes, tsunamis, droughts, water, harvest destroyed, war, civil and world war. The Messiah. We saw the Messiah coming up, don't we? There's that blood cult and I'm pointing because it's like that's where it is. If I was to jump on the motorway, it's like up, right, from me, but not far up into to that bit, but not far. Like if you've never been to the United Kingdom, like you can go from one end to the other in a day. Legit, you can. We are overcrowded. To all you people coming from outside the United Kingdom, like we are full, like quite literally full, full to the brim. And you'll be really disappointed when you get here because we've got like Victorian infrastructure. So you guys have like brand new drainage systems and brand new houses, and because you got all of this stuff with our money now, right? All of our stuff is fucking old and falling apart, and we have leaky drain pipes, and we've probably still got lead water pipes, and got like because they didn't do that stuff. Right? Because we don't have the money to fix it. We have like decrepit train stations, like our hospitals are falling apart. The schools have to close in the winter because the pipes are that fucking old, it freezes and your kids will freeze to death, right? Inside the classroom. Like like this is old. You see on the TV, you see like Chelsea and you think, oh my God, they're all fucking rich. go to a council estate, go to Liverpool, walk the streets of the fucking rows of terrace houses and the mold in the houses, because they were built as short-term temporary accommodation. Not the terrace houses, they were pretty fucking good, and they just went to wreck and ruin because the councils don't fund keeping them up, right? This is why people come from, like, you know, cool third world countries. They come here and they say the UK is a shithole. It fucking is, because we're busy paying for you to have all this brand new stuff, and we don't have the money to fix our own shit. Yeah, I'm jab free too. I never even got tested. I never wore a mask. But the Messiah, right? So we're going to have the Messiah come along. Well, there's an Islam Messiah already here. We have got how many people are flocking to Christianity? Right? So confused by they accept that everything's bullshit and we're being controlled and manipulated. And this is specifically to the right wing, who are flocking to Christianity and fail to see the fact that that was like owned by the Romans as like control. And then you go back to look at like the cult the cult of Jesus, and the, you know, the drugs and the child trafficking, and people are like, I don't know why the Catholic Church are like raping these kids and trafficking kids. I was like, oh, because that's what Jesus was doing. Anyway, so the Messiah is coming along, right? And it'll be a fake, could be a fake one, could be a real one, like Project Bluebeam. Extraterrestrials, here they come. Economic collapse, here it comes. Which is why we needed a Labour government. Spend, 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 spend. Raise taxes, raise taxes, raise taxes. Get rid of the billionaires, get rid of the millionaires. You can't afford to do anything. Let's pay for like 15 billion to house asylum seekers. That's what we're on now, 15 billion to house asylum seekers. This is what's happening. Like, and this plan A, well, I mean, he didn't put it like this obvious in his book. He kind of like spoke around them, but these are the kind of natural, these are the plans that he discovered. And when I say he, I mean behold a pale horse, like Milton William Cooper, right? Bill Cooper. Like over and over, like if genuinely, if you look at everything that's going on and just have those plans in your mind, you're like, that's a psyop, that's a psyop, that's a psyop, this is what they're leading to, that's a psyop, this is what, like nothing that's going on is going against those plans. Nothing. Everything that's happening across the entire world is leading towards that and leading towards their belief system. Right? Those two things, that's it. Genuinely, nothing is happening outside that. And I think maybe this is why I get so frustrated, because people are not paying attention to the fact that everything that's happening is congruent with the end goal, right? So if I'm selling something, right? So if I'm selling my, I don't know, the happiness hacks lab, right? So I know what my offer is, right? The happiness hacks lab, right? So then I go, okay, well, this is the thing that I'm selling. Everything I do, everything I talk about, everything I promote, everything I share, everything I kind of like say in conversation has to be focused in some way in making people believe the Happiness Hacks Lab is the thing that they need, right? If I deviate from that, then I can't sell my thing, right? And I don't live breathe, right? This has got nothing to do with the Happiness Hacks Lab, right? But so this is their offer. This is what they're selling. This is what they're selling. and their plans are how they're selling this, right? That's it. It's like a big fucking sales pitch, and people are falling for it without realizing they are being sold to and manipulated and brainwashed. And obviously, like, we've got they're using the frequencies that keep you subdued, and they make you angry, and your brain stops working. Like, all of this, like, this is all the same fucking tactics. This is their offer. That's how they're selling it to you. And you know that they're getting close to either being fucked or going all in when the mainstream media starts talking about the aliens are coming. They're talking about civil war. They're talking about riots. They got the police busing fucking lefties to Epping to start the riots, and they were obviously caught out. And at the same time, we now can't report on that shit because Online Safety Act. And I don't know any under 12s who are on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Like, they're on TikTok. And actually, they're not even really on TikTok. They're on their own social media platforms, and that's where they're getting groomed. We do have our own UFOs. We've had them for decades. So what was interesting is, for some reason, the Telegraph, I'm just closing some of these tabs that I've got open, has been sharing stuff. Now, whether this was on the actual, I mean, whether this is like buried on page like 27 of the actual newspaper, but this is like, so people subscribe to the Telegraph, and people in the know listen to the Telegraph. So, you know, these are all like the arseholes. So leaked, right? Okay. So hands up, who knows which of the plans this one's pushing towards? Bearing in mind, it's about immigration, divisive, civil war, right? Leaked memo. It's in mainstream media. It's in a newspaper outlet, a mainstream media outlet that's been calling everybody fucking racist for bringing this shit up, right? So now they've got a leak, a perfectly timed leak off the back of the Afghanistan leak, off the back of all of the other bullshit. So now this is going to upset the lefties. Probably won't, because they're too stupid to realize that they've been hoodwinked. And it says, leaked Home Office memo shows Blair's team admitting mass migration was a growing concern for the people. So they cooked up a secret plan to make it more popular. People feel they do not have permission to freely express their fears. Blair's team pushed a radically different communication approach to reframe dissent as racism, to smother debate and complaints. Then what happened off the back of this? Little white girls were being raped left, right, and center, and nobody could say anything because they were racist. You still can't say anything because you're fucking racist. And yes, ding, 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 ding. So ID cards. What are they talking about? What's Farage talking about? Well, we need ID cards to prove that we are citizens. No, I don't. No. Just have a conversation with me, and I will be able to prove I'm born and bred here. I mean, you probably couldn't pinpoint a specific location of the UK because I have a very strange accent because I moved all over. But I challenge any boat jumper to sound like a native Brit. You don't need an ID card. You just need to ask them what their name is. Hiya, what's your name? Right? And if they sound like a native Brit, off you go. They don't sound like a native Brit, then you just do a DNA swab. Why would you do a DNA swab? Well, because if they can find out what a 5,000-year-old mummy ate and where they moved around with regards to were they in different countries first? Because you can tell that by the teeth, right? The isotopes in the teeth. If they can tell you that, and that was like old school DNA testing, then if you swab somebody, you're going to be able to tell where they come from, right? So you just stick them on a fucking aeroplane and you take them back. It's that simple. And if they jump on a boat, we stick them on an island first during processing, right? And we can have camps. We can have a safe camp where they are fed and watered. But little white girls, and it's not just little white girls now. There was an illegal immigrant. I'm not going to call him an immigrant. I'm going to say there was a boat jumper who raped a 60-year-old man in a churchyard the other day. They are beheading people. They are raping people. They are kidnapping children. It's the only way ID Tony can get his ID cards. Do you remember when Madeleine McCann got stolen? ID Tony came out, right? We need ID cards to protect the children. No. You just need parents who aren't engaging in extremely disgusting sexual behaviors. I mean, dad, with his kids, and we don't need doctors who are drugging their kids so they can go on the piss in other countries, right? And obviously they don't really want kids to be fucking chipped, because then you'd be able to find all the ones that the Home Office would, who remembers Theresa May admitting that they accidentally lost 10,000 children, or sold 10,000 children to human traffickers? Pretty sure they said they sold them. Yeah, I'm not having an ID card. Fuck it. I've got one. I've got an ID card. I've got a passport. I mean, it's out of date, but I've got a driving license. This is my ID card, right? Just speak to me. That's it. And if you are foreign and you are a British citizen, I mean, they could just say, like, and if somebody says to me, you need to prove who you are, I'll be like, well, what crime do you think I've committed? Because unless I've committed a crime, or you have reasonable suspicion of an indictable offence, i.e. rape, murder, terrorism, kidnapping, like those, you can kind of arrest me without a warrant. But outside of that, you have to have reasonable suspicion. And if you think I've committed a crime which is a non-indictable offence, then show me the warrant. Because you must have been able to prove there's enough suspicion against my crime that a judge has said, yes, this person, right? So outside of those things, you don't need to know who I am. You don't need me to prove who I am, right? What's my crime? And somebody being offended, bring it, because I'm offended by the fucking people who are pretending to be women. And I've said that multiple times. So I'll be like, well, that's okay. I've got a counter offense. I've got a counter hate crime, right? Right. So this is civil war, right? Civil war. See what it's coming for. ID cards, civil war. Outlaws, decitizened, people being unpersoned, uncitizened. This is why I rallied against Shamima Begum having her citizenship removed, because she's a natural born UK citizen. Doesn't matter what she did. You can be uncitizen too. You're the terrorist that they are going after. Again, same as this, right? True cost of housing asylum seekers from 70 million to billions. What's this going to do? It's civil war, riots. This is a plan. This is the plan. Like, none of this is just, oh shit, this happened. This is all a plan to do it on purpose. And then we've got the so is this. Oh my God, two-tier justice, rapist being let off, Lucy let be, all of this stuff. It's not random. It's not random. I mean, so Edwin's just said he doesn't look like an illegal. I mean, I could look like an Albanian mafia person, right? I could, you know, I don't look like a boat jumper. But then lots of Albanians were jumping on the boats, right? But so oh my God. And people should have been talking about this back in 2022 when we were all doing the consultation, right? Why are people talking, like, how many times have you sent a consultation? Like, how many, right? So Big Brother Watch was doing this the other day, right? They were bitching about something, and I was like, and they were trying to get people to sign their change.org petition. And I'm like, well, on the 21st of August, they actually have a digital ID consultation finishes. So if anybody is going against, so anybody bitching about digital ID and then not pushing this fucking consultation, and if you go to my Telegram channel, you can see it as a pinned post. Like, consultations stop shit going through. Once it's through, you're fucked. It can get repealed by another government can repeal it, but this government's not going to repeal it at all. Where were they all? So illegal content and activity, right? Reduce the risks for illegal offending. Removing illegal content, priority offenses, child sexual abuse, that's fine. Controlling or coercive behavior, which means the government website should be shut down, right? So this is boomerang. This is what you need to do. You need to think of this as boomerangs, right? So they are doing this with the intent to start a civil war and the intent to shut us up. Cool. So the next time the government is controlling or coercive, we can report their social media posts with facts to the police and report it under this, right? Extreme sexual violence. Does that mean sexual violence is okay, but just not? Who decides what's extreme? So is it like when somebody's just getting beaten up, then raped, it's okay? But if there's a weapon involved, then it's not okay? Like, I mean, I extreme pornography. Like, I mean, what is that like? People like shagging on a bungee jumping? I mean, that's pretty fucking extreme pornography. Like, what's extreme pornography? Like, do they mean like some guy who's tugging one off while he's like got a noose, like, to get, like, I just like, this is just ludicrous, right? But I want to know what's the difference between, I mean, I actual sexual violence is a crime, but only extreme sexual violence you're not allowed to talk about. So you can share, so you can re-victimize a victim. So they should never do this, right? They should never say something like, the law states sexual violence is a crime, right? That's the law. When you then have gradients that aren't tangible, you give people a way out, right? So extreme sexual violence, it for me is anybody being like hit, like just hit, right? Bound, gagged. Like that's unnecessary. Like smacking my bum. Yeah, I swear if Matt Matt tried to smack my arse, he'd probably end up with a black eye. Oh, I'd be like, Jax, so you're fine to do it, but just don't talk about it, right? This is the thing, isn't it? People are fine to rape kids, but if they tweet about raping the kids, then they can get done, right? Fraud. But you can't talk about fraud, or you can't perpetuate fraud online. So I can't talk about fraud. Potentially. Racially or religiously religiously aggravated public order offenses. Oh, I get upset by book Christians. Oh no. Inciting violence is already a crime, right? That's why Lucy Letby was done for it. But also we have Glastonbury boy, right? What he did was a crime. He incited people to chant kill the IDF or whatever it was, right? That's not ban the IDF, right? That was incitement to a crime. Is a crime, right? And I covered that when we were talking about Diddy. I believe it's supposed to be you can't encourage illegal immigration and people smuggling, but now they're saying you can't talk about it, right? But why they're not saying you can't talk about it because it's here. You can't talk about it because it's racially aggravated and inside. That's what they will be doing it under. Promoting or facilitating suicide, intimate image abuse. What is that like? Taking a photo of somebody's intimate parts and then you abusing the image, like is that what they mean? Like, so I have a photo of somebody's boobs and I'm just going to jerk off over the boobs, and it's when I'm like I'm not a guy, I can't, right? But I'm just trying to like imagine like how this can be like how stupid the wording is, right? So it's a crime when you are abusing the intimate image. So you have to have the intimate image first to then abuse it. I know, Edwin, I'm joking. I'm just saying, like, but that's already a crime, right? Taking a photo and sharing it unlawfully, that's already a crime. So if you are sharing crimes, you can already be done for that. Right. This is why if people share photos of so there is a photo that you've probably all seen where Obama and George Clooney are on a boat. They're potentially going to Epstein's Island, and there's a little kid, like Obama's holding a little kid, right? I won't ever share that. Like I delete that. I'm not deleting it because I'm covering up Obama's crimes. I'm deleting it because that's a crime to have that. It's an image. It's a crime to share that image. And so it should be, right? The only place that image should be stored is with the police. So actually taking photos and revenge porn and all of that stuff is already a crime. So if you're sharing crimes, then you should be done. But just like making it funny and stupid is like, abusing an intimate image. Maybe like you get like people's toes. Like people get fetishes, don't they? So what if somebody's sharing pictures of like sandals? Like if somebody like forget upskirting, like somebody's like taking photos of like toes. Like I don't like feet. I just think they're all ugly. But I wouldn't be offended. I would be confused. But I mean, is it a crime to? God, it's just weird. It's just weird. So selling illegal drugs or weapons online. I mean, I would hope that's on there. Sexual exploitation. So is like Pornhub being banned in the UK? Is OnlyFans being banned in the UK? Because people aren't. So here's where we have online different to offline. So you can sell yourself on the street, but you can't advertise it online. So does that mean escort agencies are no longer allowed to be online? What about Tinder? And all, and it I know it says sexual exploitation, but again, right, these institutions are used to traffic people. Terrorism. I mean, shouldn't need to be in there. But yeah, I've just the idea of extreme pornography. People bungee jumping while doing dirty stuff. What else? Like, on top of, they do like wind walking. Obviously, I'm thinking extreme sports, right? Extreme sports, doing porn. It's just, I mean, everything can be twisted, right? Because it's not. So you'll have to look at the definitions of what it means. So it says the kinds of illegal content and activity that platforms need to protect users from are set out in the Act, and this includes content relating to, right? And that's not how you do legislation. You don't do legislation as it relates to. It's explicit. It must be, by this definition, we mean this, and that's it. Like, you can't have kind of sounds like, because otherwise you end up in the same situation that I was just like. If somebody's jerking off to an image, that could be classed as image abuse because that image is being abused, right? Because that's what the words say. Okay, so lastly, hypocrisy taints your soul. Okay, so I'll be really quick now because I need food again. And last week I was really good. I ate beforehand, but this week I didn't because I've been poorly. So hypocrisy, right? And this kind of like ties into judgment, right? So we judge others based on things that we don't like about ourselves. It's the things that our kind of brain goes, oh my God, like I hate that person. And I spoke about this before, but kind of going to take it to a little bit of another level. So judging, when you instantly judge, this is like, oh my God, I'm being judgmental. Why am I being judgmental? It's because that's how I obviously feel about myself, so I need to do some like work, because like that's what it is. If you judge somebody, it's a reflection of stuff you don't like about you, right? But everybody needs to stop being a fucking hypocrite, right? And I mention this a lot, but it's really important. If you have to pick your battles, right? And you have to decide, what do you actually stand for? This is really important. If you can't say what you stand for, like what your red lines are, what you believe, right? This comes down to your belief and your identity, and like who am I? What do I believe in? What do I believe that we should be doing, right? So do I believe that everybody deserves equal treatment under the law? 100%. Which is why what happened to Ghislaine was wrong. Do I like her? Do I agree with? No. But she was convicted of trafficking to no one. Like, that's not right. Do I believe the conviction of Lucy Letby was right? Not at all. Lucy Connolly, No. Do I think it should? Do I believe it? That so not, but I also don't believe people being. There's the guy who had a cancer cure who's in prison in a French prison because they couldn't get him in the UK. It was when he went over to France, or was he in France and he came to either one of those? Right? No, he shouldn't be in prison. Like none of these people should. Oh, it's Julian Assange shouldn't have been in prison. I mean, he wasn't even convicted with crime. Right. And so that then also means, do I believe people should be on remand? No. Because how can you have your liberties? This is the Human Rights Act and not the European Court of Human Rights. This is like actual Human Rights Act. It says that you have a right to your life and your liberty until conviction, right? So if you are on remand, then your court case hasn't gone through. Do I think we should perhaps do things to and what we've proven, right? So before the whole Southport riots, we should have just had things in place to can put people under house arrest, right? So people can still come and see them. They can get so they've got reduced liberty due to the seriousness of the offense. Fair enough, but they shouldn't be in prison because prison is for convicted criminals, right? But now we know that you can do a social media post, and then the next day you can be convicted of it. There's no reason why we've got all of these people on remand at all. There's no reason why we've got a backlog. Do you want to know why we got a backlog? We got a backlog because people keep saying not guilty, right? Then you get a court. And who says not guilty? Non-British people. That's how you tell, right? How do you tell whether somebody's from the UK or not? Is catch them in a crime, and the British people will say, "Yeah, shit, I did that thing." Right? That's statistically proven, right? Which is why that's why they did it. That's why the people who said not guilty, there were 1,000 people they tried to convict. Only 400 or so went to prison. Right? What happened to the other 600? They said not guilty and said fuck you to the stupid lawyer that was telling them and leaning on them, right? There is no crime because there's no victim. Like there is no crime, right? That's it. Fuck you. This is the law. And I will plead not guilty to take me to court. Prove my guilt. I don't have to prove my innocence, right? Those are the rules that they have to play by. You just say you're not guilty. Like, that's it. Like, I'm not guilty of that crime. No, I didn't do that crime. Here's the law. And we have like AI now makes it easier, right? Anyway, so just say you're not guilty. Even if you've done it, say you're not guilty. Because they have to prove your guilt. You don't have to prove your innocence. They have to prove your guilt, and they have to prove beyond reasonable doubt, right? So, and again, a trial is just who can spin the best story based on the evidence they're allowed to submit, right? So it's not all the evidence; it's only the evidence they're allowed to submit and present. It's just who can spin the best story. So if you then go into prison, if you're then like charged with something, all you need to do is take lots of sales and marketing training and get really good at selling. You just got to sell your innocence, right? They've got to prove your guilt. You've got to sell your innocence. But just don't perjure yourself on the stand, right? Because then you can be done for perjury, right? That is another crime. And that will be easier to prove. Anyway, so stop being a hypocrite, right? So why does it taint your soul? Because there is an emotional disconnect, right? If you believe in justice, if you believe in equal treatment under the law, or if you believe that I don't know. What could you believe? if you believe climate scam is a thing, right? If you believe that's real, and then you have to go all in on it, right? So that means no plastic. That means no electricity from natural gas. That means like then you have to do it, right? If you are I was going to say vegan, but vegans do tend to fucking do it, don't they? That's why they're like on their moral high horse. So I believe in freedom, right? I believe in free will. I believe in freedom of speech. I believe everybody has an opportunity. Everybody has a right to say what they say within the confines of the law, right? I believe in the law. I don't believe in all of the laws, and I believe that we have an opportunity to change them when they're shit, right? But that's part of the lawful process. As part of the judicial process is they put the legislation out there, and then it's us, the people, decide whether it's a law or not when we go to court. When they like, oh, when the police go, you did this wrong, and we go, I fucking didn't do it like that. No, that's the point. Yes, rich people flying on their fucking planes, or with their diesel fucking 4x4s, or with their they redecorate the house every 3 years. They get a brand new car every 6 months, or like all of that other shit that they do. No, they go so all or they've got an electric vehicle. So, I'm like, stop killing the girls and kids while I go drive in my fucking electric vehicle, which is killing the African kids in the cobalt mines and the toxic shit, right? So either you believe in all the kids should be alive or you don't, right? And I think this is really helpful. If you stop being a hypocrite, you have to look at multiple sides of things, right? Because if you are a hypocrite, then you want, free Palestine, stop Gaza, right? But if you're not a hypocrite, you're also like, but the shit that's happening to the kids in Israel, not good either. The shit that happened in Syria, that wasn't good. What happened to the Yazidis, that definitely wasn't good, right? What happened to the little white girls at the hands of the Pakistani grooming gangs, that also wasn't good, right? So either you believe in all kids deserve to be looked after, or you're a hypocrite. And if we stop being a hypocrite, we actually start seeing the entirety of the world. We stop being sucked in by the fucking psyops, and then you won't be. I mean, I only tend to get really angry and frustrated on a Monday between 7 and 10 because I'm talking about all this shit, right? Other than that, I'm just like, oh my God, might just do some EFT, right? Do some tapping and be like, I'm bored of this shit. And I go and do stuff that makes me feel good, because when I feel good, I know that I'm a more helpful person to society, right? I can do the things that I need to do to bring about good, because the way you feel dictates the results that you see always, because we're energy and it's an energy exchange. That's it. So being a hypocrite taints your soul. And that doesn't mean you can't change your mind, right? That's different. Right? If you can change your mind. You can be like, do you know what? I 100% used to believe that thing. Don't anymore. I've learned new information. That's cool. But as long as you're applying it equally, right? I believe in the rule of law. Therefore, boat jumpers need to be dealt with as criminals, because it's a crime to enter our country illegally. If you don't want it to be a crime to enter the country illegally, then change the law. And I mean, good luck fucking doing that, right? I believe it should be a crime to lie on your CV, which then puts you in a position of power, like the people who are, in charge of the Treasury, and they said they were an accountant, but they just worked in the accountancy of it. Like, what did she fucking do? I don't know. She was just like filing shit or something. But they're all liars. So just stop. And that includes people getting frustrated when they have got countries saying that they're going to assassinate them, and they are out there assassinating people. We just need to come up with a different plan. Or you have to be okay with the fact that karma's a bitch, right? I'm not assassinating anybody, so which means, you know, karma. I'm gonna like go all in on, and even if you're Christian, if you read that book, it talks about karma. It just doesn't call it karma. It's in there, right? Anyway, but yeah, so look, just sit down, right? Sit down and decide, okay, what do I believe in? Do I believe that we need to protect the children, right? And whether you come at that from like, do I believe we need to protect the children because you're coming at it from like the grooming gangs? Great. So you believe that you should protect children from abuse, right? And being trafficked and being harmed. Well, that also means you also need to protect the children from the UN soldiers who are doing it in Africa. It also means you need to protect the children in Gaza from the Hamas sickos who are doing it, and the sick Israeli soldiers who are doing it. And not all the Israeli soldiers are bad. Like, same as not all the British soldiers are bad, but some of them, when they go abroad, when they're doing their UN peacekeepings, they are doing this sick shit too, right? So you have to kind of, either you believe in protecting the children, or you don't, right? All children. Do you believe in peace, right? I believe in peace. How do you bring peace? It's not by assassinating people. It's by giving people information and by helping people choose, helping people understand the situation, right? And all the feminists. So here's another one, like feminists, right? Believe in a woman's right to choose what they wear, what they do with the body. Yet they prop up that nobody's talking about all the like fucking murders that are going on in Iran. And I've been talking about that, the women. I've been talking about that for years. Like they you know, the singer that was a male singer who was executed, that's the word, executions that are going on with people who are protesting against, right? So they're protesting against the extremist government, and we are importing the extremists. And the retards on the left are the ones who are like marching for the same people who are throwing them off buildings, burying them alive, stoning them to death. Like, I mean, is it you can't fix stupid? You can with information, right? Enough information. But if everybody stops being a hypocrite, like that's a good start, right? That's my challenge to everybody this week, right? Catch yourself when you're being a hypocrite, because it will open your eyes to the other side. And when you can have conversations from all sides, that makes you far more effective at supporting people and waking people up. And I've been sharing both sides of the Ukraine and Russian war, right? I've been sharing both sides of Israel and Palestine, Gaza stuff, right? Because it's wrong. Like, people murdering people is wrong. Full stop. And in this day and age, we should be able to do something other than just like murder people, because the only people who want to murder people are the cabal. That's it. And I'm not on their side. So are you on the side of humanity, or are you not? And again, like, I don't agree with the executions that supposedly happened with all the cabal members. I don't believe in murder. I'm going to, like, I can't say, but I do for them, right? This goes back to the online safety bill, right? Like, what's the difference between extreme sexual violence and sexual violence? Like, how are you deciding that person's crime is worse than that person's crime? Like, what's the scale? Is it 12 raping 12 children or 13 children? Like, is it one child? Is it psychological abuse? Because that's like, you can't. And also, that doesn't actually work as a deterrent, by the way. Like, it doesn't. Sick fucks will keep doing sick fuck stuff. And if you're a Christian who is pushing execution, then you are going against the thing in your book that talks about redemption and like forgiveness. Like, two big things in your book. Like, how do they have an opportunity to redeem themselves if you've ended their life? How do you have an opportunity to forgive them if they're no longer here? Right? I'm not saying it's easy, I'm not saying it's hard, but I'm not saying it's easy, and I accept that it will be very hard, but I decided I don't agree with murder, and that's it. Right? So I have to come to terms with it. I've decided, or I agree with all murder. We need to start doing some things black and white, and the world will be a better place. 100%. And doesn't it say thou shalt not murder? Isn't that one of the actual 10 rules? It doesn't say, but it's okay if it's an assassination. Doesn't say it's okay if they were a criminal. It just says thou shalt not murder, right? It says Jewish and Christians, like, well, you're going to hell. There you go. That's what you believe. You're going to hell. So that's on you. Anyway, and on that bombshell, have yourselves an amazing rest of your day. I shall see you next Monday, 7:00. Thank you so much for joining. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.